Okay, chapter 17, an exaltation of starlings. "Look," said Graciela, "everyone is crowding around our table." It was true. We were almost back to our starting point, but we could hardly nudge our way to the front. One lady even turned around and said, "Wait your turn." I could see Bernardo, Pedro, and Benny's heads through the crowd, nodding and smiling. Finally, several people near the table moved, and I slipped through to the railing. I had seen the individual pieces, but I never could have imagined how it all connected. Radish upon radish upon radish had been bound together with thin roots to create a giant trunk and sprawling branches. Radish leaves burst from the top. Fish of every size and shape appeared to swim up the trunk. Panthers prowled across a limb. Crocodiles and lizards lounged on the lower branches. A tiny row of elephants walked tail-in trunks above them. Deer and sheep and cows snuggled together in the saddles where the branches met. Beetles and butterflies attached to the leaves. Tiny birds poked through holes, their beaks open as if they were singing. And at the very top, my lion, the mane like a majestic sunburst. The complete and unabridged animal kingdom with over 200 photographs had come to roost in our tree. "Ay, qué hermoso," said Fabiola. "Yes, beautiful. Excuse me. Ay, qué hermoso," said Flora. "Yes, beautiful," said Fabiola. "It looks as if Noah chose this tree instead of an ark," said Graham. Ruben and Owen gave an occasional dramatic squirt from their water bottles to keep the radishes moist. "The judges, they are coming. Make room for them," said Fabiola. We moved off to one side as a group of men and women with clipboards studied the presentation and made important marks on their papers. Soon they moved to the next stall farther down, and the entire crowd shifted with them. "Now what?" I asked. "We relax," said Benny. "We have fun at the festival. It is a big party, no? We give away some of the figures to people who admire them, and we wait for the announcements." The band concert lasted until well after dark, and then came the results of the judging. We all crowded together. A man at a microphone began announcing the different categories. The first was Categoría Tradicional, meaning nativities, cathedrals, and religious carvings. The speaker called the names for third, second, and first place, followed by cheers and applause from the crowd. We waited through 4 more announcements. Fabiola translated. "Next is our division, Categoría Libre, free design, meaning carvings of any imagination. This year, the carvings have been extraordinary and compelling. Starting with third place and receiving a cash award and a commemorative certificate are the Perez brothers." We clapped politely and knew exactly where the Perez brothers were standing due to the rousing shouts on the other side of El Zócalo. In second place, and receiving a cash award and a commemorative certificate, continued Fabiola, but she didn't need to continue because we heard the names. "Bernardo Morales, Benny Morales, and Pedro Martinez." "Second place," squealed Graciela. "We have never, ever been so honored." The men raised their arms in the air, jumped up and down, and clapped one another on the back, and we all cheered as loud as the Perez brothers. Benny picked me up and swirled me around, and when Pedro and Bernardo hugged me, I laughed. We heard the result for first place, but it didn't matter. Graham got a bee in her bonnet because she thought the winner didn't hold a candle to our entry. Fabiola reassured her that there were always politics involved and that second place was magnifico. Fireworks filled the sky with bright bursting spirals. After watching them, we all walked slowly toward the corner of El Zócalo. "Bernardo," called a voice, We all turned around. I heard your name. A man stood in front of us wearing white sports shoes and a red baseball cap. Bernardo's face lit up. He opened his mouth to say something, but before he could, the man looked from Bernardo to Graham to Owen and me. He seemed startled. Suddenly he turned and ran into the crowd. I looked at Graham. It was him, Naomi, she said, her eyes still looking in the direction he had run. Before I knew it, I was running after him, following the red cap as it bobbed through the crowds. I heard Owen calling my name behind me. I dodged a hive of tourists. I bumped into a man selling balloons. Perdóname, I said, watching the red cap. Another man held out a plastic sandwich bag in front of me filled with cucumbers salted with red pepper. I pushed his arm aside. I could see the red cap up ahead, going toward the square in front of the cathedral. I skirted blankets displaying hundreds of alebrijes, ran through rows of tents selling rugs and shawls, black pottery, painted plates, knives, and leather purses. I followed the red baseball cap all the way to the corner where a woman sat under an umbrella selling fried grasshoppers. Then the cap disappeared down a side street jammed with stalls. He never looked back, not once. I stopped, breathing heavily. Why had he run? I had wanted to yell out to him, but what would I call him? Father? Santiago? I turned in a circle for one last look around. The band began to play a loud march in the gazebo in the middle of the park. The colors and sounds blurred as if the world was spinning. When it all stopped, I was alone with the fried grasshopper lady. Naomi, outlaw, you scared me to death running off like that, said Graham when I worked my way back to her. Don't you ever do that again. I didn't want him to get away. Where did he go? Why didn't he stay? Every question that came to my mind seemed to put me into a deeper stew of confusion. Graciela tried to calm me down. He was surprised, that is all. I am sure he does not know why you are here. He could be frightened that you think bad of him for not coming back to get you when you were a little girl. We know now he's in town. We can call your Aunt Teresa in the morning. What if he didn't go to Aunt Teresa's? What if he ran away for good? I said. There is nothing to be done tonight. Tomorrow, okay? Said Graciela, reaching out for my hand. As we passed in front of the cathedral, Ruben ran ahead and Owen followed. We caught up with them in front of a street vendor selling buñuelos, fried tortillas with a syrupy glaze, served in a shallow terracotta bowl. Bernardo bought one for each of us, and we sat on the curb eating the crunchy sweet. But I could hardly eat. I only half finished and asked Graciela where I should put the bowl. You must throw the bowl in the courtyard near the side of the church. Look, over there. We turned to see a man and woman facing away from the church and throwing their bowls back over their shoulders toward a courtyard. The bowls shattered on the cobblestones and landed among thousands of pottery pieces. It is tradition, so that good luck will follow you into the new year, said Fabiola. You must do the same. Well, we could use a little more luck, said Graham, and I know it will be right up Owen's alley. Come on, everybody. I hesitated. Naomi, come on, called Owen, his eyes pleading. I got up and followed them to the spot on the street. We flung our bowls like brides tossing bouquets, then turned to see them break in a shower of clattering shards. Owen rocked around in a crooked circle, and Ruben jumped up and down, clapping and cheering. See, Naomi, said Owen, now we'll be lucky. I was too worn out to argue. We finally started home to Barrio Jalataco, except for the men who were headed off to celebrate their victory. Owen and Ruben pleaded to go with them, but Graham said it was no place for young boys. Before we separated, Bernardo handed me a small shopping bag. The León, Naomi. It's for you. Spray it as soon as you get home. A lion that she carved. I smiled and took it from him, knowing he was trying to cheer me up. As we walked through the streets, carrying the empty coolers, the sounds of the festival quieted behind us. The talk was about the contest. Graciela told us that the entire barrio would talk of nothing else for months. As we turned down our street, we heard the distant barking of a frantic dog. "That's Lulu," said Owen. "Los vecinos," said Flora, shaking her head and clicking her tongue. "The poor neighbors," said Fabiola. "I hope she did not bark all night. Sometimes she does not like to be left alone." We hurried down the block and into the yard, lit only by the moon. Flora struggled to unlock the door to release the whining Lulu, but before she could get it open, suddenly the jacaranda tree rustled, startling us. We all turned toward it, but it was just a spray of blossoms sprinkling down. Something didn't seem right, though, and a shiver raced up my spine. As the last jacaranda bloom drifted to the ground, I realized there wasn't a whisper of wind. The end.